we live in such a crazy time that you start out these kinds of conversations by saying things like, as you will know, I'm not a doctor, which, you know, presupposes that you started this whole video thinking, oh, well, Katie Hopkins is a doctor, so let's see what she has to say. We all realise I'm not a doctor, and we all realise I have no medical experience whatsoever other than being me, caring for 3 kids, caring for myself, surviving epilepsy. But you know what I mean? I'm not a doctor. But this whole stuff around Elle Macpherson, I just find super interesting, super horrible, but it points to something I think more people should spend time at least thinking about. So backstory, Elle Macpherson, Elle the body Macpherson, and she looks amazing. She's 60 years old. If you don't know what she looks like, look her up. She looks fab. She's always looked fab. I remember being in Australia and marvelling at Elle Macpherson from a distance because she's always just looked brilliant. Well, it turns out she told someone in an interview that 6 years ago, 7 years ago, she had breast cancer. And to deal with that, she decided not to have conventional treatments. So she was offered all the usual stuff, radiotherapy, she was offered a mastectomy, she was offered chemotherapy, and she decided not to go down these routes. And you can look into the detail of this yourself, obviously, but she chose to have a lumpectomy and then spend time working with other ways to think about her cancer. She's cancer-free, and she's been cancer-free for all this time, and age 60. Obviously, she still looks great. What I actually want to talk about is the media pile-on. I mean, at a level that is unbelievable. You would believe Elle Macpherson, age 60, survivor of cancer, was now Rose West. You would believe she was a mass murderer. You would believe that she's the worst thing to ever walk the planet, that she's to be ridiculed and mocked, that the only opinion you're now allowed to have is that she is psycho, that she is to be sneered at and looked down at, and you're being encouraged to think the worst things possible about Elle Macpherson, not just about how she chose to deal with her cancer, but about her life, who she's dated in the past, what she's promoted in the past, what she actually looks like now, how she, like every element of her is now being ripped apart so that she is the biggest villain ever. And that's the bit that I think is so interesting. That's the bit I would love people to think about. And that's the bit I would love people to be inquisitive about. So I have some questions that I just wanted people to have a think about. When you think about Elle Macpherson, age 60, looking amazing, survives cancer, gently speaks about it 7 years after the event, and how you're now being pressurised to think that she has not only not survived cancer, but that she is a monster and should be laughed at and ridiculed. So one thing that's super interesting to me is The Guardian on the 6th of September and then the 8th of September has used 2 women, well-known writers for The Guardian. One of them is Gabby Hinsliff and the other one is Catherine Bennett. Editorially, this is a decision. This isn't by chance. This isn't just a couple of the women, Gabby and Catherine, saying to the editor, I'd really like to write about this. This is an editor specifically launching 2 of its well-known writers, females, to obliterate, to annihilate, to eradicate Elle Macpherson from the face of the planet for the crime of, surviving breast cancer. So on the 6th, Gabby goes off on one, and essentially it's supposed to conjure up just all of you just mocking her husband, from partner from the past, Andrew Wakefield, that he was a Fruit Loop about medical science, so therefore Elle must be as well. It talks about how she used to be called the body, so this idea of disparaging her because she was known for her body, not her brains, presumably. And then it mocks her path to curing herself. I took every single minute to healing myself. It basically says, oh, well, you guys won't be able to take every single minute to healing yourself, unlike Elle Macpherson, because you've got real shit to do in your lives and she obviously hasn't. So it's like pointing towards kind of, oh, my life's much harder than Elle Macpherson. Oh, it's all right for Elle Macpherson. She's rich. She can afford to cure herself. Then it goes on to just sort of being unkind to her a bit more. And it ends with the manipulative stuff of, talks about Elle saying, you follow your heart and give things a go. So Gabby's last line is, live your own truth by all means. Just remembers others can die from it. So specifically parking at Elle Macpherson, the idea that others will die because of Elle. So it's a whole article written to shred her, to rip her apart, to be unkind, to be cruel. And then basically the last line is, Elle will kill people. So not sort of satisfied with that, on Friday, The Guardian goes again, commissioning another article, Catherine Bennett this time, and this is much worse. So this is going out on a Sunday for the weekend read. And it starts off, it's just the tone straight off the bat. Elle Macpherson's gratitude journal must have written itself last week. And I know that Catherine Bennett will have loved that line. She will have loved that she wrote that line. She will think it's clever. She will think it's witty. She will think it's dry. She set the tone for the whole piece, which is basically, here's what Elle's grateful for. Snigger, snigger, point the finger. And there's some horrible things. Elle Macpherson explains that a holistic approach to breast cancer worked for her. You appear to gather that when holistically vanquished, cancer never returns like the conventionally treated kind did with one of my dearest friends and kills you. Blaming Elle because one of the author's friends died from breast cancer. And then it goes on, it uses things that Elle's saying, debunked by Cancer Research UK. Yeah, you better believe Cancer Research UK debunks anything that doesn't involve Cancer Research UK. This is a horrible line as well. Her achievements are acknowledged by no less a person than herself. It was time for deep inner reflection, says Elle, and that took courage. So Elle Macpherson is talking about how her decision not to go down the conventional routes took courage, which I bloody believe it would have done. Not to do what you're being told to do by doctors takes courage. But this is being mocked by this female author as kind of self-praise. Well, I'd be pretty proud if I'd survived cancer, to be fair. Women are encouraged to be proud when they've beaten cancer, last time I looked. And this is a horrible, horrible final para from Catherine Bennett, encouraged by the Guardian editorial team. And who are they paid by? But even NHS care at its worst is rarely as cruel as the approach that Macpherson takes to recovering from cancer. How dare she? In seeming to imply that the dead were just not courageous enough to cure themselves. You see what both these women do? They both use death, and they use it often, and then they manipulate death to lay it at Elle's door. And this one even goes as far as to suggest that Elle is suggesting that if you don't cure yourself from cancer, you haven't got the courage she has. Where did she say that? Where did she even suggest that? Of course she didn't. So acknowledging I'm not a doctor, acknowledging that everything Elle Macpherson says is now being disparaged, but worse than that, she has to be a monster. Let's just ask some open question about why is everyone piling in on this woman who has cured her cancer one way or another, who rejected what she was told to do, but chose a different path. So many questions, like why are women specifically being used by the editorial team at The Guardian? So there is an editorials meeting. People have decided what pieces they're being given or being allowed to write or what be accepted. They are specifically launching women writers at this piece. Women who quote stories about their dead friends or use death as a kind of way of laying death at Elle's door. Women specifically targeted for pushing this piece, right? These pieces to disparage Elle. What happened to be kind? So these are the same women in The Guardian and other places and all over the place now being unkind to Elle Macpherson, cancer survivor, who are being unkind. They're the same ones that said women should be kind, especially to each other. What happened to that? Elle, because she survived cancer, going down a different path, a holistic, looking at being alkaline in the body. Look, I don't even want to kind of go down what path she took, because we're not being allowed to see what path she took, because it's non-truth, right? It's not approved by medical, so you're not even allowed to know what she did do. But her path is now, she's not a survivor. So in order to be considered a cancer survivor in the UK, you have to follow approved medical science. If it kills you, well, there we are, what a shame. But if you follow it and you don't die, you're a survivor. But if you're Elle, you're not a survivor. Why does the media, and therefore the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex, need to crucify people who don't walk its path? Why the need to pulverize everything in their lives, everything they've ever done, everything they ever have been and will be, if they don't follow the path? Why is there the need to crush them? Why not allow her to speak openly about the path she did choose, in order that others might feel that there are other possibilities for them? Why not share her path? That's one of my frustrations. I've tried to research in some detail the path she did follow. Of course, unless you go down deep rabbit holes, you're not going to be able to look at the path, because it's not being made available. It's being poo-pooed at every turn, which is why you have to do lots of other research for yourself to see what she might have done, including alkaline lifestyles and following a more holistic approach. But again, you're not allowed to talk about even those things. What is so bad about individual accountability and risk? So this is kind of the thing we got from COVID and all of the ways that our family members were used against us, people in power or positions of respect or celebrities or whatever were used against us to make you feel like you are not the one that should be taking risks for your own life, right? That you are not empowered or responsible enough or smart enough or brave enough or anything enough to know what's best for you. The idea that if you even say, well, hold on, I don't know everything, like I'm saying here, right? But I am willing to take my risks myself. You know, I don't go around wearing the helmet I'm supposed to wear because I haven't got a skull. I choose that. I accept the risk of that. I accept that if something falls on my head, I'm dead now. If that bookcase comes down, it's over. I accept that. You're not allowed to have personal risk or personal accountability or personal responsibility. And that, my friends, is all Elle has actually says. I had breast cancer. I chose my own path. It took courage. And here I am. That's actually all she's very sweetly said. And she's not allowed. So if nothing else, if you hate me, you think everything I say is nonsense, you think I look like a melted wheelie bin face, anything you like, acknowledging I have no medical training whatsoever. My question is, why aren't you allowed to take individual risk regarding your own life, bodily autonomy? And if any of this has piqued your interest, then two of the things I would strongly suggest taking a look at is acid alkali and how that relates to what some people believe about bodies being more acid or more alkali. And the other thing, if you want something much more concrete that's not about holistic, is have a look, have a research of blocking patents or patents if you're in America. Have a look at patents taken out by big pharmaceuticals, funded often by cancer campaigns and researchers and funds. Patents specifically used to block access to therapies, remedies, interventions that might stop people dying of cancer. That's what I really wanted to talk about. I think Elle Macpherson is amazing. I think anybody that survives conditions, challenges, whatever they are, is amazing. And I think at its heart, the most important thing as an individual is to accept death early, to accept risk early, to live without fear of that, and therefore without being influenced by people who peddle fear, and to go face first at it. And if I was to look anything like Elle Macpherson at 60, if I even made it to 60, Jesus, I'd be very, very happy indeed.